So we've looked at what your ALEKS notebook, how you can set it up, and I wanted to give you an example. So here's just a refresher on what your ALEKS notebook should look like. You should have your name and the class at the top, and you don't have to do that necessarily on every page, but it's a good idea that way in case your notes get lost or separated, you can get them back together. Pie slice, date, followed by topic name. So I've got a page set up for us. And we're going to look at the pie slice. We're going to look at the pie slice today that is linear equations. Okay. I'm going to make my eye across here. So we're going to be in linear equations, and then the particular topic we're going to look at is clearing fractions in an equation. Clearing fractions in an equation. Okay, so there you go. So now, this is the first time I'm seeing the topic, or you're just not really sure. Even if you are sure, I'd recommend following this. So what I would do is I would say explanation, and every time you enter a topic, it's always going to give you an explanation before you get started. So let's write down our example. So it is 3 plus 3/4 x equals 2/5. And our directions are rewrite without WO, without fractions. Okay, so now we look at our explanation, and you can either copy exactly word for word what's there. I don't recommend that because I'm looking at it now and it says we must rewrite the equation without using fractions. I don't think you need to rewrite that. Okay, but it says to do this, we must multiply both sides of the equation by the lowest common denominator of the fraction. So that sounds like a step that I might want to write down. So I would say 1 multiply, this is key, both sides by LCD. Remember, this is lowest common, and I'm out of paper, denominator. Okay, so, and then it walks me through it. So we look at it, it says the fractions are 3/4 and 2/5. So it tells us that our fractions are 3/4 and 2/5. So it tells us the least common denominator of those two is 20. So, and it also, there's a little light bulb and it tells us why. So we can click on that and it tells us. Again, most commonly, least common denominators are multiple across. So we just say LCD equals 20. Okay, and then it says tip 2, multiply both sides by 20. So we have 20 times the left-hand side, 3 plus 3/4x equals 20 times 2/5. Use the distributive property. So we end up with 20 times 3 plus 20 times 3 over 4x equals 20 times 2 over 5. And then you can simplify that down to 60 plus 15x equals 8. And it tells you that that's your answer. Okay, so that's copying the explanation down. Now what I do is on the left-hand side, if we go back and look at, we can recall that the left-hand side is key features. Okay, so you pull yourself out and you look at what you think the key features are. This is also the point, if you want to go back and color code your notes, you can. It might be easier to write it in one color and go back and highlight and color code it as opposed to constantly changing pens, especially if you're taking notes in class. So I would pull out that step 1 is actually to find the least common denominator. Step 2 being multiply both sides by the least common denominator, because that was step 2, right? So we can draw some connections just to help us see. That comes from there. This comes from there. Then step 3 could be use distributive property. And then we look at the last step, so we can say 4 is to simplify and answer. So again, we can say here and here. So those are our key ideas. Okay, and then the summary. Okay, summary is if there's something you realized up here that was like a light bulb moment, that can go down in the summary. If you still have questions, that would be a great thing to do. So like you could write down here how to find the least common denominator, for example, or any of the things. Sometimes the summary you have to wait till you do a couple practice problems and then go back. But that's how you should be setting up your ALEKS notebook and how your note should look. So now we have this, so we can go to the next page. Actually, we'll just do this. So now we can go to the next page in our notes, for example. Everything at the top is going to stay the same. Linear equations, our name, the class, the date, all that kind of stuff. The pie slice we're going to be in is going to stay the same. But then we might look at the problem. So we could look at another example, and we would just look at, and just write. And we would just write it. 7 plus 5 over 9x equals 2/3. And we'd figure out from there. Sometimes if you need to copy your steps forward, that'd be a great idea to write your steps over here so you can kind of follow them as you go along. Hopefully this gives you some insight and some help on how to set up your ALEKS notebook and how you can use it to help you learn and study new material that we're learning in class.